done. Okay, let's go live on YouTube. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom on YouTube, on Twitch and on Facebook. How about that? That's like multitasking, multi-level, whatever. It's not multi-level marketing, Frank, no. Okay, so we are live on 3 platforms. Now on Facebook and YouTube we have a chat open, on Twitch we don't. We are still working on that. But hey, we are ready for Digital Classroom and this is a special one. So let's start. Okay, now I have to be honest, this is season 7 and it wouldn't be possible without our friends from BenQ and of course Rogue Expo Imaging. Now let me just explain those 2 companies to you guys and the connection we have with those. Now BenQ of course is a manufacturer of many products, but the products we know and we love of them are of course their monitors. So Adobe RGB monitors or P3 monitors are very, very good for photography. And in my opinion, BenQ, for the price, they just give you so much. And it's, yeah, I just love their monitors. I've been using them for, I think now over 7 years, because we already knew them before Digital Classroom. So it's been an amazing ride. The monitors are of great quality and hardware calibratable. That's very important for me, that I'm sure that the colors are right. And the other company is actually also very good friends of us, even closer friends, if that's possible. And that's Rogue Expo Imaging. Now, you probably don't know the term Expo Imaging, but when I tell you Rogue, that's something you should immediately recognize as, hey, aren't those the manufacturers of the flash benders? Yes, they are. Rogue Expo Imaging, and we already knew them from, I think, Photoshop World, one of the first I went to. They create amazing flash benders, and if you ever saw the small flash Digital Classroom, you already know how they work. And I was such a fan of the flash benders that I actually approached them and said, hey, I love what you do with the stuff, and this is how I photograph it. And they really liked the images I took with their products because it really makes it possible for me to bend the light, literally flash bender. And we started talking, and in the end it actually resulted in a Flashbender XL2 Frank Doorhof version with soft silver inlays. And they recently released a new version, the XSL2, and that's also the Frank Doorhof one. And now you can actually get it with a softbox, a grid and a strip light, all in one nice package. So that's awesome. So make sure you check those out. Now, creating something like Digital Classroom always has been a dream of me. I love teaching in our studio, but the problem is that we have a lot of visitors, of course, from outside of Europe who also want to go to a workshop. Now sometimes that's possible with the Ultimate Weekend, but most of the year we won't have a lot of visitors from abroad. And if you are in the Netherlands, don't worry, we can do the workshop in English for you guys. So most Dutch people speak English, so when we know there's a foreign student coming, we actually change the whole workshop to English. So whenever you're in the Netherlands and you think like, hey, I want to visit a workshop, make sure to let me know. Not on the last day, of course, but if you let us know like 2 weeks in advance, we can arrange that for you guys. So that's what we do in the Netherlands. But I also wanted to do it online. And it's maybe fun to go back a few years for Digital Classroom. Our first version was actually a webcam that we opened up in our then studio. It was a lot smaller than this one. And the cool thing about it was that we had people logging in at 8 o'clock in the morning when we started. They saw the whole makeup, and then we actually moved the webcam because it was a webcam and sometimes the USB connector came loose, so we had to connect it again. We moved the webcam to the shooting stage, took some shots, chatted with you guys in between, and a day took from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock at night. At evening, and there were still people watching that whole time. I think they fell asleep maybe during the day, but hey, now that was not really a Digital Classroom. That was actually the start of Digital Classroom. So just letting you guys watch during a photo shoot. Now later on, I was asked for Twitch, and Scott Kelby was just before me, and he was one of the first persons that actually hired the camera crew. He had one, and he just moved around. So before that, you have to realize that a lot of the interviews were actually people like you see me now, talking heads, and then often of a very, very bad quality, not like you see today with fiber. Then having somebody in your studio that does an interview and then immediately takes out a camera, walks around and you can see the model, that was never seen before until, of course, Scott Kelby did it during a live broadcast. Now, I watched it and I was going like, hey, yeah, I also want to do something like that. So I asked a friend of mine, and this was in the middle of the night because of the time difference. So we were there with the camera, we started out with the talking head, and at that point, when I was ready for the shoot, I actually walked up and you saw the camera going up and we did our little thing. Now, we got so many good responses from that Twitch broadcast that we actually started thinking about, hey, can we do something like this from our studio? And that's actually, at that point, impossible. First of all, we had dial-up internet, so that meant that you still heard the and then the internet started and also the counter started, not very well, and was very, very low bandwidth. Now, when we moved to our other studio where we are at the moment, we actually started investing in satellite internet. Now, there was one huge problem with satellite internet, and these were the first digital classrooms. Now, if you think back, maybe you remember those first digital classrooms. The problem is that YouTube needs a certain time between a timeout. So if you drop your connection, there's not a real problem. YouTube will reconnect because it's buffered, right? But if there's a huge gap between those intervals, YouTube will actually cut off the connection. And this was where we run into with the internet via satellite a lot. It was fast enough, we had 20 megabytes, but as soon as there was, not a cloud of course, but there was something interference like a rainstorm or whatever, or lightning, and there would be a small hiccup in the stream, YouTube will immediately just back off. This, boys and girls, actually gave me so much fear for digital classroom that every time I just kept looking at my monitor. Are we still connected? Are we still connected? Are we still connected? And that really drives your motivation down. Now, a few years ago, finally, we woke up to the modern age and we got fast internet, namely fiber. From now on, all digital classrooms are streamed on 3 platforms. So we're streaming on Twitch, we're streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, the idea for digital classroom was always 1 season. Maybe 2, because, well, what more can you tell people, right? Well, we are now starting season 7 and we're still full of ideas. We want to do a little bit less of the live shoots and retouching, but what we want to do is a little bit more also incorporate the ideas behind the shoot. So just shoot it. In other words, see what the inspiration does. See how a normal photo shoot goes. Maybe do some interviews with people you like, photographers I meet, and that kind of stuff. Now, Digital Classroom grew into a lot. We have the live streams, we have shorter tips videos, and a lot more. And of course, we have still behind the closed doors for everything that doesn't fall under Digital Classroom. It's more like a vlog. So if you don't know about our YouTube channel, feel free to join. So today, the first one of season 7. Let's go up to 10, of course. And I think the audio sounds good because we don't see any complaints. And normally you guys are immediately, hey, there's something wrong. So yeah, gear always freaks me out. So today we are shooting our model Claudia. And let me show you Claudia very quickly. Let me see, where is she? She's on camera 1. Hello, Claudia. Say hi to the camera.
Hi.
Yeah, that's not the camera.
I don't know where you...
Yes, now you're looking at the camera. Yes, there we go. Awesome. I'm just teasing my model a little bit, of course. You have to make your model at ease, right? So make them really uncomfortable. That really helps to shoot immensely. Not. So that's one of the first tips. Make sure that your model is at ease. Now, if you never saw a digital classroom, it's actually a very simple concept. You can ask questions on Facebook, you can ask questions on YouTube, and whatever you guys ask, we try to incorporate into the shoot, or I will try to answer it right away, or maybe do a video later. You see several setups, so as soon as we start shooting, we're going to switch over to this view. This is the so-called picture-in-picture view where you can literally see my Lightroom and you can see me in small. Some people prefer me a little bit even smaller, but hey, you have to do it with this. So anyway, now there's one thing that I like to address immediately. Do you see something really weird in Lightroom? I really like that. Yeah. You see that I've connected a Sony for tethering. Now, normally this is not possible in Lightroom. You cannot tether Sony cameras into Lightroom. You can tether them into Lightroom via hot folders, which absolutely sucks. Sorry for the expression, but hot folders, they don't work the way that they should work. So how the heck do I make Sony tether into Lightroom? And even everything works. So I can change settings, I can do whatever I want. It's because we're using a very small software package in the back. It's not really small, but it's a smaller software package in the back, and that's the plugin from Smart Shooter 4. Now, Smart Shooter 4 is not a small software package, but it's a big package. And what it actually does is it's aimed at event photographers. So if you're a photographer that does sporting events or work with several cameras, so not one camera, but like for example 4 or 5 shooters, or maybe you're in an arena where you have 6 or 7 cameras on the ceiling and near the goalposts, with Smart Shooter 4 you can literally combine all those cameras together and have some really cool shots. And of course control everything via live view. And use QR codes, for example, for your customers. So it's a really enhanced package, but it's mostly aimed at volume photography, so not for fashion photography. However, in Smart Shooter 4, they released a small plugin called Plugin. Yeah, go figure. And it's the Sony plugin. Now, what it makes possible is that you can install it in Lightroom, goes all automatically, of course. And now I can tether my camera into Lightroom. And the cool thing is it works very, very fast, and it's rock solid. So before this I shot with a different brand camera, and in Lightroom sometimes it just stopped tethering. We didn't know why, it just stopped. You start tethering again and it worked again. So not a big deal, but it wasn't 100% stable. And with this, up until now watch this, in this episode it will go wrong of course, but up until now it worked, unless of course I disconnect my USB cable by accident. So yeah. Okay, so today we have the 7th episode, of course, or the first episode of the 7th season. So what are we going to do? We have our model in a wedding dress, and I have a strip light. And I think the best thing to show you guys is how I normally set up mood in a shoot. So we're going to do it with one light source, the strip light, and from there on we're going to build it up. So how is the setup looking at the moment? Let me show you guys very quickly via our high cam. As you can see here, we have one strip light aimed straight at our model. Let me see if we have a different angle for that. Yes, there we go. So it's aimed straight at our model. And the cool thing about this setup is that we can actually, of course, light our model straight on like this. But we don't want to do that, of course. So I will walk into the set, and Anna will take over, and I will set everything up for her. And Brian will go behind the camera, and let's rock. But first, let me grab my light meter and, of course, my camera and the remote. Okay, well, are you ready?
I am ready.
You are,
Maar
okay.
je bent een hele kleine camera
Okay. Which camera, Annewiek?
De kleine schermpje.
Oh, one moment then. I have to change something for Annewiek. Okay. Move over. There we go. I forgot to turn on one of the monitors for her. So I'm going to do that right away. Okay. There we go. Yeah, now you can see everything, right? Yeah. Okay. First things first. Now, when you start a photo shoot, there's always something you have to do before. You have to make sure how the light is hitting your model, right? Well, that we already did, straight on. But you also have to know how to set up your camera. Now, a lot of people will just start shooting and will just go like, okay, this is it. That doesn't make you look professional. It makes you look like somebody that just tries and maybe there will be a great shot. What I like to do is use a light meter. A light meter is a very, very simple tool. It's not difficult, it's not hard, it doesn't take away any creativity. It's just a tool, guys. Don't make anything more of it. You hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. You fire your strobe and you get a reading of, in this case, f8. f8.0 actually. So I'm going to go down one click. And that's f8 on the remote. Cool. So now I know that I set up my camera ISO 100, sorry, f8. And I should be okay. So let me just take one of the shots. I'm going to shoot it slightly from behind the strip light. Now I'm just going to show you what happens. The first shot that comes in is immediately right. It's immediately like, okay, this is the shot that I need. This is the shot how it should look. Now, for your client, it might not be the perfect shot, right? But at least you show your client, hey, I know what I'm doing. Now, imagine this. So you're paying a lot of money for your new dresses. And of course, you now pay a lot of money for the photographer. And he starts like this. Let me see. Oh, no, that's way overexposed. No, okay, let me try this. No, that's underexposed. Okay, let me try this. I like the number F8. Don't know what it means, but... Oh, yeah, that looks great. Now, do you have trust in this photographer? No. So by using a light meter, it doesn't only make you look professional because it looks like you know what you're doing, but it also gives you the proper exposure every single time, and that's just very, very important. Okay, now let's look at the light. We have a very simple light setup. We have an awesome backdrop from Clickprop Backdrops. We're the Dutch distributor for those. And they also have a signature series, by the way. So we took some images in our studio from my favorite walls. We have all these custom walls, and you can now buy them as your background. So you can't have me in your studio, but you can have a piece of my studio in your studio. Awesome. That's a commercial. So anyway, so let's change the angle just a little bit. So this was straight on. Let's change the angle. You can lean against the wall just a little bit. There we go. I love it. Very, very nice. But what you see is, because I'm using a strip light, I do have a very nice quality of light, but it's not really spectacular. It's not something like, hey, I want to spend 2 hours watching Frank Dorff shoot images like this. Well, maybe you do. I wouldn't. So let's not do this too long, but let's just shoot a few, because those flat images can always be cool for some things. Really nice. Can you look towards the light? There we go. Awesome. Now when you do flat lighting, I like to have it nice and flat on the face, but sometimes also when she looks away. So I shot both. And in all honesty, when you look at the shots, they are not bad. It's something that you can get away with. But most of all, because I'm using a strip light. Now, the main thing of the strip light is, of course, that it's a rectangular strip. So what I can also do is this. What I'm now actually doing is making it more like a horizontal. Now, look at the difference. I don't have to meter again, but the difference is huge. Now what you see is that we're actually lighting almost a complete backdrop. We still have a little bit of drop from the light, but it's not as much as with the previous one. You can still use, of course, Photoshop or Lightroom to create a vignette, but it's not like the previous one, and you have a light fall off on her hands. Now, it looks nice, but it's not really what we want. So let's try something else. Let's grab that strip light and let's move it all the way to the side of our model. And let it just hit the backdrop just a little bit. There we go. Aim it down just a little bit. Have to look straight into your eyes for the cat's lights. There we go. Now, of course, we changed the light, so we need another meter reading. And with light meters, you have to turn them on. Okay, there we go. 8.08, so let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be f8. Okay, now look down just a little bit. There we go, awesome. Okay, now, because I'm using that strip light, I get a totally different light, but because I'm using it horizontally, you get this really nice beam of light on the backdrop. And a lot of photographers do this in Photoshop, but you don't need to do this in Photoshop. As you can see here. And when you do it right in camera, it looks right. And this is one of the things I can't stress enough. When you do stuff like this in Photoshop, you will see that the hands, for example, are a little bit more lit. You can see that the whole shadow transfer doesn't really compute. It's like you look at it and you go like something is off, but often you can't really trigger it. And then you start looking at the shadows behind your model and you go like, ah, now I know, where are those shadows? So make sure if you shoot something like this, you really shoot it on the set immediately with light. Hey, why fake it when you can create it, right? But we want to do something else. Now, often there's an option to also light the backdrop. Let's say you have a portrait and you want to light the backdrop and you want to light your model. Can you step 2 steps forward? Perfect. Now, when I look at my strip light, and maybe Brian can focus a little bit on the strip light, I always see the strip light as 3 separate softboxes. So we have one softbox on the side, one softbox in the middle, and one softbox on that side. The cool thing is that the middle part will be very bright, and the sides will be a little bit less bright. So when I place my model exactly in the center, she will get a full light quality, a full light blast. But when I do this, I'm actually aiming my backdrop, I'm aiming my light more on the backdrop, letting my model step forward towards the tip. There we go, perfect, stay there. So I'm using my side of the softbox to light my model, so she will get a lot of less light than normally in the hotspot, and the backdrop will get a lot. So let's meter this. 5.69, so one click up, that's F8. Let's leave that here for now. Okay, so still F8. Okay, look down just a little bit. There we go. This is more a portrait setup. And there we go. Now what you see is that we have separated the backdrop and the front. And normally you would use two softboxes for this, one for the backdrop, one for your model. Now you might think like, hey Frank, I really like this, but, and there's always a but, and everything before but doesn't matter because. So, what don't I like about this shot? I think the front is just a little bit too dark. Now of course you can raise the output of the strobe just a little bit, but then you are overexposing your shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my strobe and just move it towards the model. I'm not going to change anything in the light output, so probably I don't have to remeter, and for the live shoot I won't. If this is for a client, you do of course. And now you can see that we've created more of a wraparound effect. The backdrop is still lit, but the model is now a little bit more lit. And now comes the cool part. This is what I call a sandwich technique. You have the backdrop, you have a little piece of nothing, and you have your model. Try to fill it up like a sandwich. So in between you can play with your lights. You can have big coverage or smaller coverage. So that means that if I have a big coverage, I can work with the inverse square law. Light falls off over the distance. So I can angle my light to have more on the backdrop or less. So let's angle the light just a little bit. And keep looking at the backdrop, because this is where it's all about. It's all about the backdrop. Now we have more light on our model, less on the backdrop. And I'm still having a proper exposure. Maybe I'm a little bit over, so let's go down 3 clicks. It's 1/3. That's perfect. Really nice. Love it. Okay. Now if you're going, maybe I want a little bit more on the backdrop, no problem. Aim it just a little bit like this. And there you go. Now you have that nice beam of light again on the backdrop. So using separation and that sandwich technique is incredibly important in photography. Very, very nice. But, hey, this is nice, this is cool. Nice three-dimensionality, a little bit chiaroscuro, light, dark, light, dark. But I think we can do a lot better. Anyway, do you have a question?
Yes, there's a question.
There's a question.
Can you explain why you're underexposing in relation to whatever your meter is?
I don't get the question. Why am I underexposing to what the meter says? The meter says f8 and I'm shooting on f8. So I'm actually exposing absolutely correctly.
It says why you underexposing in relation to whatever your meter is, but you...
I don't. No, I use the meter. Okay, so the question is, why am I underexposing to what the meter says? It's not that I'm underexposing. I'm metering f5.6 and I'm actually raising the strobe with the remote. So when I meter f8, I'm actually shooting on f8. The only thing is I changed my light output, maybe you mean this, when I moved this. And that's actually, normally you should meter again, but when I move this, I'm using a different part of the softbox. So the center part, for example, is f11. The 3/4 is f8 and the side is 5.6. So you go 5.6, 8, 11, and that's because we have a very narrow grid inside. So that means that I can literally, by changing the angle, can totally change the quality of light output. Okay, so let's move this a little bit more to the back. Okay, look all the way down. And now by moving myself around, I can control the contrast that you guys see me done many, many times. But as you can see, it works like a charm.
I did something wrong, Frank.
Okay. I'm over there, I'm coming.
I'm sorry.
What did you do?
Die balk is weg. Ja, als je op die klikt. Ik heb per ongeluk die op elkaar gezet.
I don't know what you did, Annemiek. Let's hope that it works.
It works.
Don't press any buttons, please. Okay. We have a very small team, guys. We only have 2 people, Annemiek and Brian. And you know, teenagers, right? They don't care. And we have wives who press buttons. And very difficult sometimes, but it works. You know, we have fun. Okay, look down just a little bit. There we go. And again, I'm moving around my model to create contrast or take it away. So here you have a beautiful sculpting light quality, almost like a soft light portrait. And when I go here, we have that really harsh quality. And when you go here and you shoot down a little bit, there we go, look at that. So you get this really different looks. Hey, but today is our 7th season. I want to do something with that. Can you lean against the wall, please? And Brian, can you give me the black 7? I want to do something a little bit more offbeat. Okay, give it to the model so he won't bite. Maybe when you ask, but nah. Yep, that's a 7. Don't do it the other way around, because then you're just as dumb as we were. I took a lot of great shots from N-Week with the 7, and then I found out that it was the opposite around. Ha. Okay, so we have light coming from the top down. This is a normal setup for a little bit more intimate light. So I'm moving this really close to my model, aiming it down just a little bit. There we go. And of course we want to make sure that the 7 turns up really nice. 8.05, so I'm going down 5 clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F8. So I'm not under or overexposing. And let me see what batteries go in here. Okay, normal ones. So my light meter tells me the batteries are almost dead. But it will probably work. Okay, so let's try this. First, the way that it's set up now. Of course we want the 7 in. Okay, very, very nice. Now there's one huge problem with this. It's too dark. I don't see that 7. Now, did you ever shoot a wedding and you have a bride and a groom?
And the 7 is verkeerd om, hoor.
Oh, the 7 is, yes, that's the way the 7 should be. Of course we have to have the 7 right. But did you ever shoot a wedding where you have a bride and a groom, and the groom just doesn't have enough detail, but you don't want to lose that intensity of that shot? Like here, I like that close spot effect, but there's not enough light on our model. Now there's something called light in light, and I want to show that to you guys very quickly. So I'm going to take my 90 centimeters, so almost a meter softbox. And it doesn't really matter where you place it, so I'm just going to place it here. And of course in Photoshop, or Lightroom of course, you have the shadows slider, also in Photoshop, but in Lightroom we normally use this. And of course you could say, hey Frank, just open up the shadow slider a little bit. Yeah, nah, we're not going to do that. Fix it in camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim this at the ceiling, not even at our model. And now it's on full power, so let me just show you what it does. So it's now on full power, not something that you want. There you go, and this is too much. This is way too much. But this is what light in light does. I still keep that intensity of that first shot, so that nice glow and that nice angle of light. But I'm just using light in light to open up the shadows a little bit. So let's close this down. Let's go 2 stops down. To F8, sorry, to 8, not F8. Very nice. Can you hold it a little bit more to the side that I see a little bit more of your body? There you go. This is nice. Cool. Okay, tilt your, yes, there we go. Show the other hand. Yay! Awesome. Look at that. She's having fun with her 7. Now 7 is my lucky number, of course. So let me see. I like this darkness, but for one, I want to turn it up again, because we're going to do a special effect shot. That's something that I love to do. And that's a little bit of a wide angle shot. So just look straight into the camera if you want. And just point towards the camera. Let me see. No, that doesn't really work. Yes, there we go. As you can see, this gives a little bit more of a weird feeling. Maybe even do it in portrait mode. And by shooting it wide, you create a lot of tension in the shot. Not something that I normally would advise. Can you point towards the camera with your other hand? Yes, like that.
Like that?
Yes, that's perfect. And even closer towards the lens. There we go. Awesome. Keep it that way. Okay, hand down just a little bit. There we go. Season 7 is ready to rumble, man. There we go. And let's see the last one. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more straight into the camera.
Like that?
Yes. And a big smile. There we go. Face a little bit more towards me. There we go. That's it. There we go. Awesome. Thank you so very much. You can change for the next set. Okay. Let me see what we can do with this. And can we switch over again?
Ja, ik heb die lagen helemaal niet geflirt, sorry.
Sorry guys, I have to go to commercial because my wife totally messed up the setup. I will be right back. Let's show a little bit of a commercial. And then I will try to fix everything. In this tutorial we're actually going to show you that you can make great images with very, very simple tools. What to think about a tungsten light bulb. The LED panel. A ring light. Your standard flashlight. The Fresnel. The Westcott ice light. Smartphones. Balloon cube. The chandelier. Christmas lights. We call them light snakes over here. This is one of the most creative lighting videos I ever created. I'm very enthusiastic about it. It's available now via our website. See the links. Hey guys, my name is Frank Dorhoff and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now, in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now in this video I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the light meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Okay guys, so we are back and I don't have any normal view anymore, so I have to create something new. One moment. Anouk destroyed some of our settings. And I'm going to try to do that very quickly now. So just give me a few seconds. I'm going to duplicate my shot. Let me do rename, and let me do just main cam. So in our software we can set up different views for you guys, and normally that works like a charm, but sometimes also something goes wrong. Okay, remove that layer and make this one big, and I think that should fix the problem. Okay, let me try this. Okay guys, I'm going to switch now. Yes, that works. Okay, awesome. Wow. Whew. Okay, let me go back to picture in picture. I hope you also have the... Yes, that's the proper audio. Okay, awesome. So everything fixed. Okay, let's go back to picture in picture for now, and let's go through the images very quickly. Okay, so when we started out with very, very flat lighting. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with flat lighting. The only problem that I have with flat lighting is that it's flat. It's a little bit boring. You don't have that three-dimensionality in your shot that we all like, that contrast, right? We want contrast in our shots. And of course you have a little bit of contrast here by the shadows on the backdrop, but it's not really that the model comes loose. And as you can see here, it looks nice, and under an angle it looks even better, but still you don't have that feeling of wow. Now as soon as you start placing your light under an angle, this is where everything starts to change, at least for me. Now it gets way more interesting. It gets more like this. So now you see those angle of lights, and you also see the shadows. Now the reason I like doing this in camera and not in Photoshop is when you look at the shot, let's be honest, there is so much going on. Just look at the face where all the shadows fall, and you see the shadow transfers, you see little details over here and here. It's so jam-packed with information about shadows that if you do something like that in Photoshop, you can make it darker, but you still can't make it alive. And that's something that I think this does way, way better. And of course, just keep shooting, and some images are great, some are less. So when I really have to go for one, oh yeah, this is also what we did. Now, here I started using that sandwich technique. So we have our backdrop, something in the middle, and we have our model. And that something in the middle is often very, very bright, and we use the sides of the lights actually to light the backdrop and our model. That center part never registers. It just goes straight through that sandwich, so in that space in between, and it just disappears outside the frame. So we never use that. We can use it, however, by angling that light. So with a strip light, again, you are working with 3 softboxes that blend together, and that's incredibly powerful, as you saw in the video. Now, this is where I go a little bit too much. I used the tip of the softbox, and there wasn't enough left to give that wraparound effect. Now, if you do it like this, you have more of that wraparound effect, but there's too much light on the backdrop. And that can be nice, but sometimes you want more separation between your model and your backdrop. So what do? You angle it a little bit away from the backdrop, and by angling it away, you are actually angling that whole array of softboxes. And then you get the very, very cool thing. What you actually see here is that although we are using one light source and one light source only, you see this? Under her cheekbone, under her chin, this part also slightly starts to light up. And this is something that I absolutely love about photography. And normally we use, for example, an accent light on the other side for that to get that jawline in. And by angling the light correctly and by using that strip light with a grid, you can actually do that on set with only one strip light. And that's, I think, pretty cool. Okay, let me switch back to this very quickly, and let's make it foolproof that Anouk can't do anything anymore. I locked you out. Okay, I'm just kidding. And again, by angling that light source, this was too bright, this was too dark, and getting it more darker, and there you go. Okay, so you can create literally everything on the backdrop, and the model stays properly exposed. Now, by changing your own angle, so by walking around your model, you can actually get it more contrasty by shooting it into the light, or less contrasty by shooting it in the line of light. So in other words, standing in front of the light is very soft, standing almost straight into the light is very high contrasty. And this is almost under a 90-degree angle, maybe 80, 75, whatever, but it's behind the model, aiming at the light. As you can see here, the light really wraps around the model, and it gives you almost like a Rembrandt kind of lighting. Not completely, because then it should be more dark here, but it comes very, very close. And here we go with the 7. Now with the 7 you have another problem. I choose black because that's difficult. And I wanted to show you guys the light in light. Now when I shoot it like this, one could say, hey Frank, go into the develop mode. It's not a real problem, just open up those shadows. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Now maybe add a little bit of highlights. Frank, there you go. Looks nice, right? Yes, looks nice, but a little bit of noise starting to creep in. And not a lot, but when you shoot this on, let's say, in an event on ISO 3200, you will get a lot of noise. Now, of course, you don't shoot this, but hey, let's just say you do. Okay, so let's just reset all settings. This is dark. Okay. Now I started to use a light in light. So first times I didn't, and there we go. So this was the first one, light in light. Now the cool thing is when I go here, there's no more noise. And there's something else. Now I can actually use contrast and make it as dark as I want. And maybe use a little bit of shadows to counteract that effect. And there we go. And with dehaze you can make it darker or a little bit. I use dehaze a lot for skin retouching, believe it or not. And because I shot it with the light meter, I actually shouldn't change my exposure. And there we go. And shadows you can now make darker or lighter, but as you can see here, I don't lose any coherence between my backdrop and my model, because in the backdrop there's also light, so highlights, and that's also in the dress. Now when you don't use that light in light technique, the only option you have is those shadows, and as you can see here, it does open it up, but it opens up everything. Now when you go to that light in light setup, where you actually let me go to one here. So here's that light in light, and now when I do it, you see that there's a different balance. That dress doesn't really go up and down in your exposure. It's only the shadow areas. So now you have a way better balance between that shadow area and the highlights in your dress. And this is a technique that at first I also said, hey, why not just use the shadows slider? Because hey, cameras nowadays, if you shoot on ISO 100, you have much more headroom, there's no noise whatsoever, so why not? This is the reason why. Because now I can actually counteract those very, very nicely, and they keep in balance. Same with my highlights in the dress, for example, with local adjustments. As you can see here, it just does a little bit. Don't look at the top part, only in the dress. So you have a lot of extra options. Okay, so let's go down. Perfect. Now that wide angle shot didn't really turn out the way that I wanted. What I wanted was a really a disconnected look. I think this one does it very well, but I don't have enough of the 7 in. And that's because the light was pretty close and I didn't want to take it all down. Well, maybe this one is okay. Let's see. Too much in front of the face. Here we don't see the 7 enough. Can you redress? No, I'm just kidding. Can you redress yourself? Okay, let me go for a preset just to show you guys what you can do. Let's just go through these presets. Oh, I really like what we're doing here. I don't like the black and whites. Of course, we want to keep it in color. Ah, there we go. Love this. And then I can always change it a little bit. And there you go. Before and after. Oh, no, come on. There we go. So I really like this. Okay, and let's just reset our settings. I want to keep everything as clean as possible. There you go. So settings, undo, and read it. Yeah, so you see a nice difference. Okay, now there's another thing that I have to address, and that's actually the next thing, and that is something that's very important. Now, you saw me using a light meter. There's one other tool that I always use, and that's the color checker. Anyway, can you give me the color checker, please? Now this is still the X-Rite one, and we're very soon gonna switch everything over to Calibrite. It's exactly the same, they just rebranded it. So you're still using the same X-Rite quality, it's just now with a brand called Calibrite. And I think that's a very, very smart thing, because X-Rite, of course, is very well known, and Calibrite is more aimed at us photographers, at us videographers, and helping us out with tools. And that means that we now have a part of the company that really, really focuses on us creators. So keep in mind the name Calibrite. You're gonna love what they're gonna do. I'm part of their education team, so it's gonna be a lot of fun and very exciting times. Okay, so this is a color checker. It's not a makeup box, it's a color checker. So what does it do? Now, when you look now at my settings in Lightroom, and I'm gonna go to Picture-in-Picture Mini, you can see that when I'm going into my tethering, let me just move that up that you see what I mean, that's this part. You can see here on the white balance you see flash. Now the reason I have that on flash is because when you set your camera on auto white balance, and maybe you encountered this in the studio, what will happen is it will meter the color temperature of your modeling lights. Now trust me, that's about 2800 degrees Kelvin, so it's very reddish. Now, as soon as you start shooting, your strobes are about 5000, 5500 degrees Kelvin. So there's a huge difference, like 2000 degrees Kelvin. That means that almost always the images on your camera look totally wrong in color. Now, don't worry about it, you're shooting RAW. But in the past, or maybe now, people still shoot JPEG and they wonder, like, why do all my images in the studio look like crap? That's because you don't use the proper white balance. And they go like, yeah, but I use auto white balance. Correct. The auto white balance is metered the moment you press the shutter. It first meters the color temperature and then it fires the strobe. So that means that it meters the modeling lights. That's also why you get an underexposure signal when you're shooting with strobes, because it's underexposed, right? And then when the strobe fires, it will actually give you 5500 degrees Kelvin or 5000, but the camera is already set for that lower color temperature. Now when you shoot in RAW, there's no problem at all, because you can change that later on. Just change the color temperature. And this is where this comes in, because when you look at color temperature, it's always three values: red, green and blue. Now those red, green and blue values you see in Photoshop, like for example 100, 100, 100, and that's neutral gray. Now when you start shooting color, how should you set your color balance? Well, this is the part where a color checker comes in. One part of the color checker, and we're going to show that in a moment, is actually this: 18% gray and a white balance part. On the 18% gray you can actually, for example, calibrate your light meter, and we have a white balance part where you can actually set white balance. Now both of these are neutral gray, so that means that if I shoot them in Photoshop, the values for red, green and blue should be equal. So for example 128, 128, 128 for middle gray, 18% gray. So this is how you set your color balance. This takes away the color inconsistency. Like for example, I saw it outside different than inside. Sure, because there's different lighting, take away the color indifferences and you have properly exposed and of course properly looking image for color balance. In the Dutch we call that kleursweem. Kleursweem, I really like that title. Okay, so what is this? Now you might wonder, hey, if I only need that gray patch, why do I need all those colors? Well, there's also something called a color space, and let me switch over to this camera again so you can see me better. Now in that color space there are determined coordinates for RGB, and each color, so RGB, has three coordinates: an X, a Y and a big Y: hue, saturation and luminance. Now for every single color scheme or every single color space, like for example Adobe RGB, ProPhoto RGB, sRGB, Rec 709, BT 2020, there's so many color spaces. You have fixed coordinates for red, green, blue, cyan, magenta and yellow, and a black body curve. This is where this comes in. Now, did you ever notice that even if you set your color balance right, your Canon camera looks slightly more magenta than your Nikon, which is a little bit more yellow, which is slightly different from, for example, your Sony, which is a little bit more bluish? It's very subtle, but if you place the images next to each other and you retouch them correctly and you don't do anything in Photoshop, you will see a difference. And it's sometimes subtle and sometimes it's really noticeable. And that's because every sensor also has a different readout and different processing. This takes all the questions out. What this does is it has a fixed setting for that, I hope I aimed it at the red one, yes. So it had a fixed connection for that red one. So if you shoot Adobe RGB, it knows that red, for example, is 320, 326, 70, whatever. I'm just shouting out some numbers. And when you shoot it and it goes through the software, it will actually see that, hey, it's not that, it's something else. So now it makes a correction file. And we call those correction files ICC profiles or DCP profiles. If you use Adobe, it's a DCP profile. If you use any other software, it's an ICC profile. This you create for your camera. So don't open something like this up for your monitor. For your monitor, use a different one. And for your printer, use a different one. They're all based on the same principle, but you create them differently. For your monitor, you create them with a so-called color analyzer, something you hang in front of your monitor. For your printer, you use a spectrometer, which you actually hover over the paper and it reads out the color checker you printed. And for the camera, you just shoot the color checker. Okay, so where do you select it in a Lightroom? That actually changed. Let me first change this order. Okay. So when you go into Lightroom, in the past you had to scroll all the way down to calibration. And as you can see here, all the way down there's only calibration now, there's nothing else. And that's because when you scroll all the way up, you now see where it's supposed to be. You now see Profile Adobe Color. Press on the 4 squares here, and now you can actually see your favorites. And you can see your Adobe RAW, but you can also see profiles. Hansel for Sony, and look at this. So this is Adobe Vivid, and this is what it's supposed to be. So this is my Hansel strokes for the Sony. So your profiles are now located under your 4 squares. And of course you can close that again. And now you can see that my profile is Hansel Sony. And you can also do it like this, Hansel Sony. But normally you only see it when I go to Adobe Color. It takes out the other one, which I don't like. I would like to have a few at least there. But now I have to go for Browse, go all the way down again. So this is something that Adobe could change, especially for people that use a lot of color checkers like me. And there you go. Okay, so this is how the color checker works. Now, creating the color checker file is very, very simple. You just shoot it, make sure that you don't over or underexpose it, but that's why we use a light meter, right? And then the software will just do it automatically. You have software in your computer, you just go like export. And oh, let me grab this here. A lot of people ask about that. And then you just go for your color checker software. It's under X-Rite, color checker camera calibration. You just give a name, and always before you do it, check for updates. No new updates. That's how it's supposed to be, of course. Okay, so color checker. So for the next one, we are going to shoot the color checker very quickly. And we have something else planned. We have a black backdrop. We have our model taking selfies. We have Anna Week sleeping. We have Brian taking a shower. So I think I'm going to wait for a few more seconds. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to set up the next set and then we will be back. So for now I have to do another commercial very quickly. Sorry guys. But otherwise I don't have time to set everything up. But we will be right back. Trust me. New York, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful places in the world for street photography. In this video, Beyond Snaps New York, we're not only gonna show you tips and tricks about gear, getting great shots, locations, how to talk to people, and much more, but we're also gonna show you some places that you may or may not have heard of New York. How about 2 Chinatowns? You probably know one. We actually found another one that's way more interesting. How about a location where you can get great night shots? Or Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, Amityville. This video is jam-packed with not only photography tips and techniques, but also great locations to visit when you go to the New York area. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy this video. In my opinion, it's one of the best we ever made. So enjoy Beyond Snaps to New York. New York, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful places in the world for street photography. In this video, Beyond Snaps New York, we're not only gonna show you tips and tricks about gear, getting great shots, locations, how to talk to people, and much more. But we're also going to show you some places that you may or may not have heard of New York. How about 2 Chinatowns? You probably know one. We actually found another one that's way more interesting. How about a location where you can get great night shots? Or Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, Amityville. This video is jam-packed with not only photography tips and techniques, but also great locations to visit when you go to the New York area. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy this video. In my opinion, it's one of the best we ever made. So enjoy Beyond Snaps to New York. Okay, and we are back. I don't know what happened before, but hey, okay. So, we have a black backdrop. We have one 90 centimeters Octa. I love this one. So this is my Hansel. It's aimed straight at our model. Model can come all the way closer, way closer, way closer, way closer. There we go, awesome. Okay, let me see if I can bring this light back a little bit. Yep, aiming it straight at our model. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, first image is of course with the color checker, because now we want to make sure that everything is correct. Can you hold this? Thank you very much. A light meter. There we go. Annemiek, do we still have 2 blocks on the audio? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. 16.8, which is way too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I should now be on F11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Should be F8. So what I'm doing is I'm actually lowering the output of my strobe. That goes by 1/10 of an f-stop. The light meter also shows 1/10 of an f-stop. So that system really works nicely together. Okay, hold it in front of your face in a moment. And then we're going to take the color checker shot. Now, Annemiek, are you in split screen? Yeah. Okay, so they also see Lightroom? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, and now you have to make a really funny face, otherwise it won't work. Nice. And this is without the color checker. And this is with. And big smile, big smile. Woo! Now, of course, with the color checker, we have to go really close, actually. And a big smile. And 1, 2. Ooh! There we go. And that last one is not usable, but I always try to do it a little bit funny for my models. Ah, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so as you can see now, we have a black backdrop. There's nothing on the backdrop except black, which is awesome, because that's what we want. Now, of course, we want a little bit more festivity in our shots. So, although this is nice to take a photo of, great model, great clothing, black backdrop, what's not to like? Awesome. So let's just... Nice. Love it. Okay. Better. As you can see, goes really well. We don't see anything of the backdrop. I love the look of the shot, but it's a little bit boring, don't you agree? Let's make her a rock star. Do you want to be a rock star? Yeah, duh. Of course. So let's turn on a blue gel. Oh. Let's go for 7, not too much first. And let's do red from this side. Let's make her really shine. So this is what you could normally do. And let's keep them all at the same pace. So on 8. So we have pretty high output. But hey, that can be fun. Oh, this is going to be so cool, I hope. There we go. Nice. Now you might wonder, Frank, it looks nice, but it's so fake. It doesn't really connect. You just have those, yeah, lights there, and it doesn't really give you that nice smoke effect. Can you use smoke? No, we can't use smoke at the moment. But there's something else, and that's called lens flares. Now, let me show you something very quickly. I'm going to take something off my lens, and I'm going to take exactly the same shot as before. And as you can see, all those nice flares are totally gone. So what's going on? I have this filter in front of my camera, and it's called a black mist filter from K&F Concept. Now, I'm not a big filter guy. Actually, I hate filters, but everything before but doesn't matter, right? This is freaking awesome. What's happening in this filter is they actually use nano dots. Sounds awesome, right? Already nano dots. So I'm already in. And they're black, and they actually scatter the light. So you get this beautiful intentional lens flares. Watch this. Same setup. And now you can already see much more of those flares. But hey, this is still not it. Because what is a lens flare? A lens flare is actually a part of the light that scatters around in your lens. So how do we get it in the lens? Well, we get it in the lens by aiming it at the lens. Is it now aimed at the lens? No. What I want to do is I want to get more next to our model. I want to get them closer. I want to have more light output, but I don't want to overblow the model. When I look now, I see the model. She has a little bit of a red accent, a little bit of a blue accent. It looks absolutely nice. So I don't want to lose that. But remember what I explained with the strip light, with that sides of light? The cool thing is that also works with normal light sources. Normal light sources have much light in the center, very, very hot, very bright. And the more you go to the sides, the less the light intensity is. So that means that the light falls off. Same as inverse square law, light falls off over the distance. The center part is very harsh, very bright. The more you go to the sides, the softer the light and the less output. So let's try that in practice. So we're going to take the ladder away for a second. I'm going to need that. And what we're going to do is going to aim this all the way forward. But I'm going to aim it down now towards the camera. So I'm actually not aiming it at our model, but I'm aiming it towards the camera. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm getting it really close to our model, and again I'm aiming not at our model. So normally the light is always aimed at our model. In this case I'm actually aiming towards my camera. And the thing that I hope is I'm raising it now one extra stop. There we go. Don't break your neck, or at least do it carefully. Ooh, this looks much better. Okay, so I'm aiming close. Ooh, there we go. Now you don't need smoke for something like this. Oh, wow. Now I'm getting happy. Okay, now again, take the filter off. And we're going to do the same thing. So you can do it without the filter. But as you agree probably with me, it's a lot less interesting. So put the filter back on. And it just gives you much smoother lens flares. So if you're watching this, it's not a commercial for the filter. I would highly recommend you to get the filter. But you can also do it without, but it's just a lot less fun. Okay, make sure that we include the strobes. There we go. Oh, wow. I really like this. Let's just accidentally but intentionally underexpose by a full stop to create a little bit more move. And there we go. Now I am underexposing, but it's not an accident. It's absolutely by will. And this creates just a little bit more darkness in the photo. And maybe it's a little bit too much. So let's go instead of F11. I should be on F8. And let's go to F9. Yeah, that's better. Okay, but of course we have a little bit of a celebration, and for a celebration we of course need another 7. So let's bring in our, yes, our golden 7. Which already lost a little bit of air. Okay.
And holding it good, the 7.
Or so. Yes, it's my lucky number. So don't destroy it, baby. Yes. And I really love the reflections on those shiny letters. There we go, look at this. Wow, girl, you rock it. But I think it's a little bit boring. Brian, do you have some confetti?
We do.
It's a party. Let's have a party.
He's never done this before, right?
Brian?
Yeah.
Oh my.
For other people.
Okay, so you first just stand still, and the moment I say yes, Brian, you start throwing a lot, but only once. Are you ready, Brian? Okay, 1, 2, go. Aww. That's pretty cool. Okay, Brian. Okay, try it again. 1, 2, go. Now, there's one thing that could make this even better, and that's actually some motion from our model. Can you turn around? And then when I say yes, just turn around very violently. 1, 2, go. Okay, and Brian, try to time this to throw it. 1, 2, go. And then, now, first learn her move, and then throw it as soon as you hear the strobes.
Oh.
Okay, there we go. 1, 2, go. Okay, you now, no. Brian, don't throw it. First learn the move. So wait. Okay, Claudia, 1, 2, go. Okay, another one. So Brian can know the timing. 1, 2, go. Okay, Brian, do you think you know the timing?
I think I should be able.
Okay. Are you ready? 1, 2, go. No, you're not.
You want it sooner or later?
A lot sooner. On, just throw it on go. 1, 2, go. A little bit sooner, just throw it on 2. Oh, you take another color?
Yeah.
No, another ball.
Oh, okay.
Just throw it on two. Right?
Yep.
Moment. Slippery. Yes.
Are you ready? Okay. 1, 2, go. There we go. That's better. Just throw it on 2. You can take your shoes off. I don't want you to fall.
Yeah.
Just leave everything else on for the viewers. Yes. And now turn around again. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Brian, are you ready? Okay. 1, 2, go. Okay. Try it again. 1, 2, go. Anyway, can you try it for one time? Sorry, guys. Let Anna try it. Okay, Anna, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna, 1, 2, go. There we go. A little bit later, Anna. No, a little bit sooner, I mean. And don't throw too high. Okay, 1, 2, go. Okay, can you give me some? Okay, let me try something. Okay, 1, 2, go. Okay, more?
Better?
Yeah, much better. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, go. Okay, Anna, can I have some more?
Yeah.
Oh, some from the floor, Brian. That's also great. With motion, it's always difficult to get exactly what you want, so we are trying. Oh, wait a minute, I can throw the whole bowl at once. Take half out. We're going to be creative. Okay, 1, 2, go. Okay, yeah, too much, okay, throw it in. It's not too, it's never too much. Okay, there we go. Now I have to make my own timing. 1, 2. Okay, one more, Annemiek. I think I know the timing now. This is really hard. 1, 2, go. Okay, let me see on the computer if we have something, and they will actually clean up, and if we don't have it, we can do it again. Okay, this is important, guys, because you never know if you really got what you want. And this is really, really difficult because let me just change the camera so you guys can see me. The problem what you encounter is the moment you throw it is that it takes time, of course, to reach the model. So you really have to make sure that you hit it right. Now, when I look at the last shot, I actually did it right, but I fired a little bit before, and that's because I'm throwing it myself. As you can see here, the model is still standing still, and then the strobes have to how do you call it? Recharge. Okay, so as you can see here, we are running a little bit in problems, but you can solve this. So I didn't get the shot that I wanted. And I have to be honest, the ones that I threw myself are most of all shot a little bit too early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Emmeloord in a moment, and I'm going to ask the model to keep turning. And I'm going to use a little trick. Now, the trick is those strobes are really, really powerful. And they're really fast. They can do up to 10 frames a second. The only problem is at the moment I can't do 10 frames a second for one very simple reason. As soon as I get the power above 5.6, that's not an f-stop, it's just 5.6 on the power output, it can't recycle fast enough. So it can still do 2 frames a second or 3, but not 10. So what we're going to do is I'm going to raise the ISO to 400. I'm going to lower the stops on the strobes so they come within that range where they can recycle very fast, and we're just going to shoot a series. So that's going to be cool. Now, little disclaimer, everything we do at Digital Classroom, we don't prepare anything. So the shots we are creating now are literally like, hey, what can we do? Oh, we're going to do something with confetti. We're going to do something with color. What? We don't know yet. We're just going to set it up and we'll see how it works. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But today, and that's what I like about this Digital Classroom setup, we're not going to do a teaching program. I'm just going to show you how we create a shot. So you also see it going wrong. And you can see it then building up and trying to find different solutions to make it right. I don't believe in something that's pre-programmed and we just do it again for the live shoot. So in other words, we know exactly when to throw. Because when you guys do this in the studio, you encounter exactly the same problems we have now. Some people have great timing for throwing, others are a little bit late. Sometimes it's not their fault, but it's the timing that you are doing wrong. So yeah, we have to do this. So what we're going to do now is somebody asked me like, what is the name of the filter? It's the black mist filter from K&F Concepts. So we'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, let me switch over to camera so you can actually see what we're going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower all the strobes to the range where I can use them for high speed. It's not high speed sync, so don't think that. It's more like a higher recycling. So I have to go to 5, so that's 4 points down. Okay, 4 points down. So I'm going to go on the other 4 points down, so that's 4 stops. I can actually probably get away with 6, but for now let's just do it like this. Okay, let's do the same thing with this one. Okay, 3.7. Okay, 4 stops. So, I'm going to go. ISO 200, of course, is 1 stop. Then ISO 400 is another one. ISO 800 is the final stop. So let's see if that works. Can you stand up for a second, Claudia? for one test shot. And there we go, ISO 800. Yep, that works. Okay. Awesome. Let's stay on that F8. Okay. Let me test out very quickly if my camera keeps up now on. Let's do it high. Can you close your eyes for a second? And I think they will keep up now. Okay, the blue one lags a little bit. Okay, that's not a real problem. If we miss it once or twice, that's okay. Okay, Brian, I want you to throw, and for you, just keep shaking your head. Yeah, don't turn, but just keep shaking, and your body like your animal from the Muppets. And I just keep shooting. Okay, Brian. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay, Brian, are you ready? Okay. Throw on go. No, go on 2. Just throw on 2. Okay. 1, 2, go. Okay. Now we got a lot of shots. Let me see if I got one. There we go. That's the first one already. That's the second one I like. Third one I like. But I like a little bit more confetti. Anyway, can you also throw? Yeah. So from both sides, and I really want a lot. But don't throw it in front of her face. No. So maybe throw it from the back to the front.
Not in clusters.
So when you throw it, it's important. Anyway, am I still on that camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
Small camera.
When you throw it, make sure that it doesn't hit the face. So, for example, when I was throwing it from the front to the back, you actually saw that it came in the camera's viewpoint. What I'm now going to let him do is throw it from the sides, but slightly behind the model towards the front, over her head. So I have to make sure that it doesn't cover her face. Okay, Enrique and Brian, are you ready?
On 2?
On 2. 1, 2, go! Let me see. Almost, almost. There we go, that's the one. That's awesome, I love that one. Okay, try it one more time. Ja, iets minder klonterig. Okay, are you ready, guys? And don't throw my model a blue spot. 1, 2, go! Ah, awesome. I think we have it. Let me check very quickly on the computer. Okay, let me check. Okay, let me see in the previous one if we have one that I like. I don't know why the blue one doesn't fire all the time. So here you can see that they were already done with throwing. There we go. This one I really love. But there's a lot of stuff hitting her head, which we don't want. Okay, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to push my luck just a little bit. I'm going to lower the blue output just a little bit more to see if it can keep up. I don't know why it doesn't, because it's on the same power output. Oh, wait a minute, it's another strobe. Ah, that's the problem. This one isn't as fast as the other ones. Ah, that's my whole issue. There we go. That's the problem. Anyway, can you very quickly give me that strobe? Just take the strip light off and the strobe itself. Let's switch over very quickly. So this is a free mask from Hensel, and those are really fast, but not as fast as the other ones. That's the problem. I'm so sorry, guys. Let me switch over very quickly. But that's the whole issue. And now you can also see why it's important to have strobes that are fast. Because you see the difference between the ones that aren't, and those are pretty fast, and the experts, which are insanely fast. Okay, cool. Let me see, 5.4 on both. Okay, aim it down towards my camera. Okay, anyway, now we should have proper, sorry guys. And this normally never happens, of course.
It's your 7th season, Frank.
Klein stapje die kant op. Thank you. Okay. And now I think I can even do high plus. You know what? Just try it. Why not? Let's do high plus. Okay, guys, are you ready? On 2. And you move around like crazy again, yes?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, go! There we go. Now that's a lot better. Are you ready for another one? Are you ready for another one? 1, 2, go! Awesome! Now we got it. Oh, yes. No epileptic seizures, luckily. Okay. Let me switch over cameras. Okay. Now the thing is, as you saw me before, even on high or mid, I have to time it very, very closely. I have to go like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And most of the times, timing it for one shot is easier than shooting it on mid, because somehow I'm always in between on just not hitting it right. Now, because the blue one didn't keep up with the other one, I was going like, hey, what's going on? And then I found out that it's another strobe. So it's still an Hensel, but we have 3 experts, and those are really fast, and we have 1 free mask. The free mask is a little bit slower in its recycling time. It's not a bad thing. You saw it kept up like 5 frames a second, but as soon as you go to that 10 frames, it just doesn't do it, and the experts do. Now, the difference is that before you saw me trying it several times, right? And I didn't nail it right. So, watch this. Now, as soon as you got the right strobes, I'm just going to go back instead of forward. Now you can just watch the whole movie and go like, okay, which one do I like? Oh, I like that one maybe. This one is cool. Ah, that one is also nice. I love this one. There we go. Okay. And then also the other ones. Okay, I want to try it one more time, guys. Are you all right with that?
Yeah.
But we already got some really cool ones. Ah, look at this. This is awesome. There we go. This is it. This is the one. Yep, this is the one. I see enough confetti. I see enough here. I love her expression. I see the 7. Okay, let me give that 5 stars for now. And we did a few, of course. Okay, this was still with the other strobe in. Okay, let's try one more set. Let me switch over cameras again to give you the overview cam. I think that's this camera. You see everybody working. There we go. That's the overview cam. Yes. Okay. Let me see if you guys can still see everything happening then. I don't think so. Let me try another cam. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, try one more set. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, make sure it doesn't clunter together. We do 2. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go crazy. Okay, guys, are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, go! Okay, one more. Are you guys ready? Okay, wait for the buffer. Okay, 1, 2, go! Oh, okay. Don't try this at home with your normal strobes. They will explode. Or go to Mars or Jupiter or whatever. Okay. Claudia, you're done.
Yeah?
Yeah, thank you so very much. Okay, I'll let you guys see what's coming in, because that takes a little while. These are 60 megapixel RAW files, so yeah, it does take a while. Okay. Let me get something to drink in between. Now normally the images of course come in almost straight, but because you're shooting so much, it first buffers on the camera and then it actually starts transmitting them. And it goes pretty fast, but do realize these are 60 megapixel files, they're huge, and they all have to come in over one cable into one computer. They look absolutely amazing, guys. So I think we have something cool. And you know, if we have something that's cool but isn't 100% cool, we'll still have Photoshop. But and now you can actually see something, and I hope this doesn't come on deaf ears, or you don't think, hey, that's arrogant to say. I already nailed the shot in the beginning if I am willing to use Photoshop, and I'm not. And I'm very, very clear in this. I will try, but I will not push my model over the edge. And I think that now when I do another one, I will push her over the edge because she already did a lot and there's a lot of strokes going on. And so I don't want to push it anymore. But when you have a shot, like for example, let's say, let me go a little bit further back. Okay, let's say you really like this shot. Now, there's some confetti here and there's no confetti there. You can always go back, and this is why I shot them from almost the same angle every time. You just go back and you go like, hey, I like the confetti there, just take that out and clone it in. And what I would advise you guys to do actually is, as you can see here, they're all almost in the same position. So just split the screen like in 3, if you want to do it like that, split the screen in 3 and choose one side that has great confetti, choose the middle sandwich again where the model is, and then the third side where there's also not confetti. For me personally, I would just like to nail it straight, and I don't want to do anything in Photoshop. Not because I don't like Photoshop, but I still think if you nail it in camera, it just gives way more satisfaction. But sometimes you have to, right? Oh, look at that. There we go, a lot of confetti on that side. And an arm. Okay, but you can clone that out very easily. Yeah, I think the one that we actually selected, I think we're going to take that one. Oh, look at this. I also like this one a lot. So anyway, there's a lot to choose from. Now, why did we choose that kind of confetti? The reason is actually pretty simple. I want stuff that reflects. I want stuff that gives me a little bit more three-dimensionality in my shot. And when you have something that reflects and shines, it always gives you that little bit of extra. Now, during the, what was it called? During the cosplay workshop, we did something, and it was pretty interesting. Let me show you that very quickly. Let me see. I have to go to retouched images. I'm going to switch over to a screen in a moment, guys. Sorry, don't worry. But we also have some stuff here that isn't released yet. There you go. So now I can switch over. Okay, let's go to picture in picture. Now this is actually from the cosplay workshop, but this is not the shot I want to show you. This is it. Now when you look at these shots, there's one thing that would immediately draw your attention if I didn't do something else, and that's actually this. This huge, oh, hey, this is cool, looks like the bat symbol. I didn't see that before, wow. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so this reflection on her suit was very, very noticeable because for the very simple reason, it's a latex suit, you aim your strobe on it, boom, it will go berserk, of course, and it will give you a lot of light. Now, by adding accent lights to the sides, you are creating even more highlights. And there's one thing that's very important. If you have something in your studio that you don't like, and not your wife or your son or your model, but something that you really don't like. I'm just kidding, Anouk, you know that, right?
I know, yeah.
It's my kind of humor. So if you have something in your studio that you really don't like for example a pole in the middle of your studio, and you can't take it out because your walls will collapse or whatever. A lot of people will go like, oh, I don't like that pole and why is it there? I agree, but why not make that pole part of your setup? If you have a problem somewhere, make that problem part of your final shot. So in this case, the reflection on her chest was very, very obvious. And there was also some reflections on her legs, but it just didn't look right. Now, as soon as we started adding those accent lights from the side, that's actually when it started to look really, really interesting. And then you have so much specular highlights going on that people actually go like, oh, I love how that suit just lights up. And you go like, there we go. So if you underdo it, people will go like, hey, that doesn't look nice. And if you overdo it and you really place your lights on the correct position, people will go like, oh, I really love that. So very simple tip. Okay, let me go back to our model from today, Claudia, of course. And let me see where Claudia is. Okay, And we actually have exactly the same here, of course, with our strobes. We are aiming at our confetti, and because the confetti is shining, it doesn't disappear against the black backdrop, but because it shines, it really jumps out. We tried this a few years ago with paper confetti, and it sucks. Because very simple, I needed 10 times more confetti than I need now, because half of the paper didn't show up, or what was in front of the model only threw shadows on the model because the light was hitting it, of course. And it just didn't look right to have one black piece here and one colored piece there, and you didn't see the model. It didn't work. And then we switched over for this shoot actually to shiny confetti, and I like this a lot more. This just looks way better. Okay, let me see if there are any questions. Now somebody says, Mark, actually, hi Mark, I hope you're doing fine. You move too while taking her picture. Yes, you move. So that's why it's actually, when you want to combine those images, I actually advise to or cut out the confetti and place it in exactly the same spot, which can be tricky because you have your light fall off of the blues. As you can see here, it's a smooth graduate, however you want to call it. And by just using that split, you only have to move it around once. And what you could do, and that's very simple, do it in Photoshop and just have your main image ready, and then have the one that you want to transpose over it, just lower the opacity, and then you can very finely tweak it and put it exactly in the right space. Because let's be honest, if you're shooting at such fast, you hardly see it move. Do you see that? Now only when I shoot it before, now it's another shot, you see now it moves around. So if I want to combine something from this shot with the other one, that's when I run into problems. But if I combine it from the same shot, I'm pretty stable, as you can see here. It's not really that I move my lights around. Sometimes, and otherwise just shoot from a tripod. Then you know exactly that you're always right. And we also have a tripod from K&F Concept here, which we're going to test very soon. So I'm very curious for that. Okay, let me go back to some messages for you guys, because we're almost through. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but we actually did everything that we wanted to do. And there are little questions, so I think we're almost done. Anneweek, do you have for me the news that we have to read out?
Yeah.
So Anneweek is coming up with the news. The news.
We're going to Australia.
We're going to Australia. When are we going to Australia, and why, and when, and how? Are we going to swim? Are we going to transport by Star Trek? Mr. Scott, beam me up to Scandinavia, no, to Australia. That's the other side of the world.
Yeah,
Oh man.
virtual.
Oh, virtual. Ah, virtual. There we go. Are we taking virtual?
No.
No. Okay, hey, all joking aside. Now, you know that I love Photoshop World, right? It's for me one of those special events where you mingle with a lot of the attendees. It's totally different from other trade shows. It's aimed 100% at teaching and learning and mingling together and just having a shitload of fun, to be honest. Now, because of COVID, we, of course, don't have a normal Photoshop World, which is a shame, but it's also maybe better because at this point I would rather not fly, to be honest. And we have a big surprise for you guys. September 1st and September 2nd, you can see 2 live shoots from me during the virtual Photoshop World. Yes, Photoshop World is online and it's gonna be awesome. They even have after hours, they have a live band playing, they have a lot of classes, like insane amount of classes, and this time you don't have to run from class to class. You can actually watch them from your couch with some popcorn, and I really advise you some popcorn for mine, because on September 1st we're going to do a live shoot how to save your life with lighting setups. Yes, it's going to be a lot of lighting setups that are really simple, but that give you tremendous amount of great images. But it's something you can fall back on if something doesn't work or your strobes don't fire or something breaks down. It's very simple. We're going to also do something with natural ambient light. We're going to do something with strobes, but we're going to just tone it down a lot, even using open strobes without reflectors. September 2, I'm doing something that I never done before. I'm really nervous about this one. I'm going to show you my complete, and this is the first time ever I'm going to show this, the complete workflow on an iPad Pro. And it's not the workflow that you might expect, like, hey, how do you import an image? We all know that, right? How do you give 5 stars? That's boring. We don't do that kind of stuff. What I'm going to talk about is how do you keep your images from the iPad to the computer without them corrupting it, because that's a huge problem on the iPad Pro. We found a solution for that. I'm going to show you how to do semi-professional retouching for skin in Lightroom. So you don't have to go to Photoshop. You do it in Lightroom. I'm going to show you how in Photoshop you can create smooth backdrops. So if you have a backdrop, and hey, I'm Dutch, that should be replaced 2 years ago, but you don't because it costs money, right? Yeah, there are wrinkles in there. How do you take them out? Well, in Photoshop on the iPad Pro, we found another solution that works just as well as on the desktop. And slowly, we are actually going more and more towards the iPad Pro. I'm a big supporter of the iPad Pro for that. It's just awesome. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do color tinting, skin retouching, smoothing backdrops, and whatnot more. September 9th, we are in Australia. It's a closed webinar, so I don't know why that's on here. Can they still register for something like that?
No, but it's fun to know.
Oh, it's fun to know that we're in Australia, virtual. Okay.
Right?
Then on, and we really hope that this will continue, but in all honesty, I don't think they will. But hey, who knows? On October 22, 23, 24, I'm in Belgium on a trade show. We will be teaching the full day demos on the booth from
VDAC,
VDAC, that's the name.
sell large print.
And they're XL large printers. So what we're going to do is we're going to shoot a model with our cameras. And I'm going to retouch that very, very quickly on the spot for you guys. And we're going to print it out on those printers. And we're going to give away those prints signed by me to visitors of the booth. So don't want to miss that because you get a really huge prints, including my signature. And you were there when we created those shots. So that's awesome, right? You see the shot. You are there in the public when I retouch it. You are there when we print it. And you're there when I sign it. And then you can take it back home. Isn't that awesome? That's only worth your admission, and it's free. No, the admission isn't free, the print is free. Okay, and then we have professional imaging on October 30th, 31, and November 1st. Again, same thing, I will be there on the VDAC booth probably, maybe with our own booth, we don't know yet, because professional imaging is still in the...
You're one of the main speakers.
I'm one of the main speakers, I just heard.
Yeah.
Great,
And,
I'm one of the main speakers.
We also have to visit our other sponsors, so we're not sure yet.
Okay, we're not sure yet, but if it continues, we will be there somewhere. Just go, you will find my sexy voice. No, I'm just kidding. You will find my voice somewhere. And then September 22, we have another digital classroom, and that one will be, let me do one where we actually start to interview somebody. I will still think about who. But we're going to do a digital classroom where we just interview some, maybe Nadine about styling and how she incorporates that into the photo shoot. Just let me know in the comments below, like, would you like to see an interview with me and Nadine, where I just interview Nadine as a guest? So those will be probably 1 or 2 hours. We don't know how long we can talk. But it's going to be fun, and we're going to show you pictures, we're going to tell stories. If that sounds fine, just let me know in the comments below and we'll do that. I think that was it, right? And we have our new book release soon. The reprint from Photography in Every Photography in Every Situation. So rewrote a lot of those chapters. It's going to be awesome. And everything else, I want to say stay safe, play some guitar, have some fun, and most of all, stay safe and get your shot, because this we have to solve together, right? And we want to do trade shows, so get those shots in your arms. They don't hurt, and I don't like needles, and they were so easy. It was there, and now you are part of the solution, right? Okay, guys, thank you so very much for watching. Anouk, do you have something to say to the guys? No? Okay, thank you so very much. It went a little bit faster than normal, but hey, only 20 minutes.
Time flies when
Time
you're
flies.
having fun.
Oh, and next week we're going to do a live stream for Synology. I'm going to tell you everything about backups and my backup strategy. And what I want you guys to do is send me emails about how you back up your images, or, and that's the stories I'm really after, I'm going to put it on social media too, we're going to do that anonymous, so don't worry about it. I want to hear from you, the horror story, how you lost images. So, see you again next time. Bye guys, the lights in the studio already went off. So,